Welcome to the Seeker's Table, an international community committed to cultivating a deeper understanding of intimacy, companionship, and trust with the divine through contemplative gatherings both in person and online. My name is Reverend Ian White Marr, and each week I interview a spiritual companion or director from across religious traditions to hear how they guide people seeking insight through contemplative practice. Today is a special episode. It is the third of 7 interviews guiding our journey through Lent this year. Patrick St. John, S.J., is a native of Haiti and a member of the Midwest province of the Society of Jesus. He teaches psychology at Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska, and is the author of The Spiritual Work of Racial Justice, A Month of Meditation with Ignatius of Loyola, and The Crucible of Racism, Ignatian Spirituality and the Power of Hope. Thank you for joining us today, Patrick.
Thank you very much for having me, Reverend Wright.
Yeah. So when I was looking through your materials, you told this story about Good Pa, who I think is your godfather, right? Is that correct? Or was your godfather? And this
Correct.
powerful experience you had when he passed. And I'm wondering if you could, because it just sounded like this jumping off point of you entering the spiritual life, and maybe you already were connected, and but I it just sounded like I think you said you'd never been in a Catholic church before.
No, correct. You're right. I think really for me that it's somehow that was a mystical experience, mystical call for me because my godfather, who was a good friend of my father, was a Catholic, but I was not born in the Catholic Church. I was born as a Southern Baptist. I was just like 11 years old when he passed. The first time really I went through a Catholic church. But to put this in perspective slightly back in a little bit, I still remember when my godfather was battling the cancer and then he was like dying. The treasure that he gave me was this powerful sense of hope.
Mm,
He's the one who teach me almost everything. But he one thing he always say, we I used to call him good pa because for me he was like, not only a good friend of my dad. Sometimes my dad was not there. I had to go and see be with him. He just embraced me. He allowed me to do everything. You could imagine when you're a kid, right? You want someone to give you like open gate that you can do whatever you want. But the gift also you give me was the gift of hope, the sense of whatever you want God has for you. Engage in this conversation with him and be open. He will be able to lead you through. While he was moving, dying with this cancer, I still remember. And then I was like thinking about many, many things that I wanted to do and wanted to do nothing as a kid. But what the story leaned to is that, he said, okay, there's one ways you can be with Christ is by opening to him. And I said, when he died, I could remember going to the funeral and seeing him lying. That's what came to me. And I said, okay, good pa, help me here to understand what the priest was like on the sermon at the funeral. I said, everyone here have received a call. God give you a call to do something special on his kingdom. And that was how that twisted in my mind. I still remember as a boy at the church, first time I entered in the Catholic Church to assist his funeral. And I could see him in somehow. And I said, good Pa, please help me, give me the hope to understand that. This is how when I went back home, talked to my mom said, no, that's not for you. Don't even bother ask me again. And go talk to my grandmother, who was also a Baptist preacher. She said, okay, my son, I will pray for you and God will provide. And ever since, she introduced me to the Society of Jesus, and here we are today.
so your grandma was a Baptist preacher, and she had a priest, a Jesuit friend, and she introduced you to him at 11.
Correct, correct. She was my mom. She's a Baptist preacher. My grandmother was a Baptist preacher. My in fact my from my mother's side, they were the first generations who went to Haiti in 1876
Mm.
Baptist because my great grandfather was slave and in the East Coast in New Jersey when his honor bought his freedom, but they used to be back forth in the Caribbean doing like medical and missionary missions. That's how this family, after Haiti independence, they moved down to Haiti and in 1876 with the Baptist, Southern Baptist. They die and my parents end up pick over and today that's how you have Southern Baptist in Haiti. Still today I'm the only one who is Catholic in my family. The rest of the family is still Baptist.
Wow. And so when you heard this priest talking about calling, how did that appear for you? Was it that the calling was to become a priest, or was the calling somehow, what was the calling?
And this is why I think for me the whole experience I was like mystical and
Mm.
also the voice in the sense it was very, very sacramental to help me travel through this. It was for me really like a this mystical experience because when you say like everyone here have received a call to do something special in his kingdom, that kind of like the words, the line that get me through this time
Mm.
and challenge me to go back and then ask my grandmother. But by the way, I was still in church. I was like a preacher kid, means like on Sunday, I was like leading services, and I still remember that I was like preaching at 11, 12,
Oh
13
wow.
some of the time. I was familiar with such kind of like term, but what I felt this time for hearing it from someone I've never heard it before was completely something different,
Mm.
and that's what really led me to deep, go deep down, ask questions, seek answer, and allow this mystical, contemplative experience go deeper on what God wanted of me. And somehow, like as your the name of your podcast, that right, the secret tables, I could see myself like sit right at the table, just like seeking this response from Christ, and that's what our experience is called.
So when I think about the Baptist tradition, I don't necessarily put it as a contemplative tradition. I think of it as more emotive and um, just very lively and embodied in that way. Um, which may or not be true with the case that you grew up in, but you have gone on this sort of contemplative path, and I'm just wondering if that was just something that you also heard very young in that sort of seeking moment, or was that something that was cultivated over time, or how did that happen?
Yes, I think Baptist actually Southern Baptist there is much more to it. It might be really like this embodiment, that's what people say externally, but we also have moment when we go down and then you sit down and meditate. We have such kind of like space.
Uh
We
huh.
think also. But for me, to respond to your questions, I think it was really like this the whole like our way we worship and like, everything is very, very sacramental. But having this space where I was engaged to it and then sit down to reflect and then think and talk to God, seek again what is God want to tell me about that was really like once I heard that when I keep sit down, talk to my grandmother, and then she said, I will pray for you, God will provide, and she asked me to pray, and then I sit down, pray and sign and go deeply in my heart. That's how slowly, slowly, slowly that led me to this path of
Mm-hmm.
meditation, meditations.
Mm-hmm. And so when you when you became a Jesuit and then you started working with the practices of Saint Ignatius, um, just curious about how that contemplative work s- sort of started to become part of you, or you know guide your direction. Like, what when you're working with people, you're a professor now. How do you use the contemplative practices to guide your own life and guide people that you're working with?
You know why? I think Ignatius really has given me some things I've never had before.
Mm,
This is why he make me like he just catch me and he catch me. And ever since I'm very, very grateful and to the Society of Jesus and to the Jesuit and everything that I've done, everything that I have, the Jesuit has given it to me. It's become like this path upon which I do my work. Ignatius always is the one who informed what I do and engage and invite me in different ways to seek it and engage with Christ. But the lens to it deeply down here, it's about, this experience of awareness
mm,
where Ignatius always like challenge us to pay attention to the movement that's coming in and out. Because knowing that, as you say, God is constantly creating the world. God's never stopped.
hmm
That's meditative experience right there. Since God has never stopped his movement, his works, and the creations, then it's become where our works and a way to respond to the gift that God has given us as creature to pay attention, be aware, this sense of awareness, spiritual awareness, is very, very key in ignition spirituality as a way to connect us, invite us, engage us to just like listen to the voice. What is God is want of me today? What is God saying to me? Where is God in this? This is where Ignatius is saying, what? Thrive to find God in everything
mm,
because God is present with us.
hmm
Where is God in this?
mm,
What is God is saying of me? And what is God wants of me? I think that's where this practice become very, very important here. It's the deep sense of awareness. And then when you talk about like the gift of discernment, right? You see, what? Again, pay attention right here within your heart and the feeling that we have. That's also a way we can listen and connect with Christ's voice. The divine would come to talk to us from those motions and the movement, interior and external. The divine has never left us.
hmm
Rather, we are the one who always needs to be in sync and connections. I really like this line actually because one of the course I teach, which is like spiritual psychology with the kids, and then I like this line. I like it a lot. From Théo de Chardin, when you said, what? I'm paraphrasing here. We are all spiritual beings who is having a human experience. It's just like this draft, right? We're just like spiritual being from up to down, but having this human experience as its interactions. Therefore, we must always remember who we are and what we are thriving for. This human experience is this call to be contemplative but in actions. Our interactions, it's what also inform our faith, how we act with each other. That's also what saying how do we believe in the divine. Our actions is one of the deepest and most expressive expression of our faith.
hmm
Of the link also that says how we are in sync and we want to be with Christ. I think again, the seekers tables, whenever we sit around your tables,
Hmm.
if you're not white, I think it's really like where the seekers really needs to come together with this deep sense between contemplative and actions. We pay attention to see where the divine is inviting me here and right now, in what I'm doing here. Because no matter what you're doing, there is something deeper right into it. Only, if only you want to pay attention to see it. It's only you want to let yourself to be divinely be this. Because you're against the spiritual beings who is happen to have this human experience.
Hmm.
Just allow that to come and be in sync and connect with the divine.
So, is there an is there an experience that comes to mind when you, like, with everything that you just said, right? That we're spiritual beings having a human experience. Is there Was there a moment, or maybe even other moments, where you're in your contemplative practice and the the meaning of those words came alive for you?
Oh, many, many, many times. Many times, I would say, like my daily life constantly. The most recent one, um, people will laugh about that, right? I'm these boys and born in Haiti doing nothing, right? But now, recently, I have another Jesuit friend who introduced me to skiing. Skiing right now become one of my best practice ever, contemplative practice.
Skiing.
Skiing is such for me, skiing one of the most deep spiritual experience
Oh, wow.
because he interconnect with so many layers into it.
Uh-huh.
Contemplative in action, prayer, humility, sense of awareness, and
Yeah.
in trust. Trust is not about you. I still remember that I was watching a video when I when I was like trying to learn to ski. The instructor said, "You know what? Just make this slight move. Trust. The ski gonna take care of itself. You don't stop the ski."
Right.
I think for me, skiing, it's one recently I had this. I was on the top of the mountains up in Wyoming. If you ever go there to ski, they call those things like a sort of like a black things. I said, "Oh my God, am I gonna be able to get these? How am I gonna get down? Because I
Yeah.
already leave to get there." But you know why? Being just while I was doing that and in contemplating all of this, I felt this deep experience within me
Mm.
where I said, not only I'm just like this small one, but I get this, I happen to have the grace to be here to divinely connect with Christ. And the divine will take care of this. And I have a big smile. That's the meaning within me, a sense of like freedom. And I just like let this key slow down. Go. That's one of the many, many examples.
Uh-huh.
I could like countless of them. When I go like, going in the mountains, looking at the nature and looking at the sea, looking at the sky. Those are for me elements that once again remind me, yes, I just happen to be this human today, but I always have to remember my deep spiritual calling, which is like this spiritual being who is having this human experience. Once those two interconnect right there, for me it's where again Ignatius came as this deep sense of gratitude. Only one way I can be grateful to this, I can be aware against this, is to be grateful to what I have right now.
And I really love that story about the skiing because I think sometimes when we talk about spiritual practice, we it has we want it to appear in these great big moments, but actually it's kind of like the practice that we do allows it to show up in the everyday moments of life, and that um, the gratitude becomes accessible and present to us in in every area of our lives, rather than just the ones that we sort of box off as the sacred ones.
Mhm. Yes, yes. But the sacred ones, as much as I respect, I worship those sacred, what
Yeah.
we to be sacred. But again, I think we like God's creation in itself is a sacred place in
Right.
the sacred space.
Right.
This is where like the table, as we are as seekers of the table, I believe that is right where you are right now. That's your secret space.
Right.
And we be in touch and in sync with Christ, the divine, to make this space secret
Right.
and let it be for what it's been created to be.
Right. So we're as we're recording this, we're talking about Lent, and we picked a reading for the second Sunday in Lent, um, and I'm curious about your experience of Lent and what you think Lent is like, how it appears for you as an opportunity for people to enter into the sacred as a practice, and let's maybe we'll get to the reading in a second, but just maybe how Lent uh, appears as a practice for you.
I think Lent again is one of the opportunities that we have because the divine has always come to us.
Mm.
That promise, it never fell to his promise.
Hmm.
And I think it's so it never fell because it always come to us and it find ways to give us an opportunity to begin again.
Hmm.
I think Lent is one of these ways we come with the divine, right? Because there is what happened here. It's because Lent, as we always the practice, fast and praying and alms giving. It's it's a way we come back again to build a new small habit, habit. Because those things we have done, our sin cannot surpass, cannot be bigger than God's mercy for us.
Hmm.
And God always knows how to find ways to come to us. And those practices, they're small spiritual habits that we can create it. Then habit right now, that's how we build up, right? Psychologically. For example, it's just like you are going to the gym. If if you want to get big muscles, just go. You have to be consistent with that, right? You go every day, you build small habit, push-ups, you run, and keep consistency. Then before you know it, you say, "Oh my God, I have to go to the gym." And going to the gym is not only a healthy habit, but it's become also like a, a good key for your health.
Right.
It's become a virtue to you. This is how the small habit which the liturgical calendar give us and the Christian traditions. Once we practice them and we ask for the grace to remain consistent to them,
Mm.
then they become virtues. And we become virtuous people who is right now constantly acting and sync with the God who always has mercy and compassion to us. In
Mm.
other words, I would say like the practice of Lent is an opportunity for us to come back with God and to
Mm.
restore what we had and say, hey, come with me, my son and my daughter. Let's walk again. let's do this again, right? I think it's just like you say in Jeremiah. That's okay. Everything that happened, it happened, but let's come. Let's dream again. Let's start this matter again. That's what again the practice of Lent gave us. For me, that's how I see it.
And so the particular reading that we're looking at, right, is it's Luke 13, 31, 35. And here it is. The Pharisees come to talk to him. This is the second Sunday. And he says, you got to get away from here. Herod wants to kill you. And Jesus is like, I'm busy casting out demons. I've got work to do. But then he goes on to say, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets, and stones those who are sent to it. And I was kind of thinking about this reading also in relationship to the work. You've put out a couple of books. You have a brand new book called The Crucible of Racism. And here we are in a nation that is so divided around race, right? It is perhaps this um, the fault line, right, within the identity of what it means really to live in the Americas, but also in this nation as someone in the United States. And I'm wondering how you maybe see this reading, but also Lent in relationship to your work and writing on racial justice and really this crucible of racism.
I was smiling while you were reading this because it's really like interesting because in the 1800s when Alexis de Tocqueville came here to really like see what was happening in the America, mainly in the South, and when he said, I had tears come to my eyes. I'm
Mm,
paraphrasing here for what I saw that was going on, and many people over there that seems to be call themselves as prophet and they're not even doing the work.
right.
It seems right now, as it says in the scripture, I'm keep paraphrasing the Tocqueville here, there can be like no prophet anywhere. Maybe if they go back to Europe, they can be the prophet because
Right.
you're not in the on home. But in contrast to all of these, right? Go back here when we see that what happened with like Dr. King in the 15th and 1600, and how we also like King we killed the prophet
Mm-hmm.
for what he was doing. We ask ourselves really like, okay, do we have the capacity to be in connections and to understand the message of the prophet? And can we ask for the grace for
Mm,
this? I think this is one of the big questions I often like give to this gospel reading here. God, where can you give me the grace to develop this deep spiritual capacity to understand the message of the prophet? Like Matthew said, right? And whenever you're a prophet, if you go somewhere, you give the message, they don't listen to you, they don't open to you, shake the dust and just move on. But at the same time, I sometimes would like I would like reversing, if you will, this element from the gospel and to try to get this hermeneutical sense within it to see exactly what could have been said
mm-hmm.
without what has been said here. That's one layer. And the second layer is against today, really, as we claim ourselves to be the guardians
Right.
of life, the guardians of hope, the guardians of democracy around the world, could we be also this guardian of life, hope, democracy in our own home?
Mm-hmm.
Can we have this connection with here, with what we are preaching to others? First of all, to engaging here with our home. How can we be perfect first? at home.
Right.
I don't know. Those are questions often that came to me. I often like when I engage with with those gospel, I try really like to engage with like this meditative aspect, but also like keep asking Christ questions much more than I try to give answer to people.
Right. Right. So here we are in Lent, and here we are, like the question, I suppose. Um, the crucible of racism. So, what is the question then? I suppose for Jesus, for the Christ, right? As we're entering into Lent, seeking some surrender, seeking some repentance, right? Not just individually, but also, for me, it's often the culture. Like, I feel like we don't necessarily know how to repent as a culture. Um, how we go through this journey, this the wilderness, as a spiritual practice, you know, facing this crucible of racism.
You know why this notion we like first of all, a crucible, as this kind of like this pot full of like fire that's just like you're burning you, but
Mm-hmm.
it's planning you to be burned for some things different, so some things better. Not only transform you and form you and transform you for some things better. As we are right now, the crucible of racism really is the reality that we are all living in
Mm-hmm.
our life. But there is behind it also there is this deep sense of hope. But sometimes we have to go through this fire.
Right.
If mainly, for example, like today as we are recording this, and then also it's gonna be going on. Right now we are celebrating the tenth anniversary of the death of Trayvon Martin.
Right.
This boy whom I could imagine myself, because as a boy I used to wear that kind of like this hoodie and everything. I imagine myself it could have been me.
Mm-hmm.
Just a simple fact of being on simple things that only my black skin and that make me like not worth nothing. As we are celebrating the 10th anniversary of Trayvon Martin that was being killed in Florida by February in February 26, 2012.
Mm.
Just we go through this again and again, though Trayvon Martin has given somehow put some oil in the fire of justice when the notion of the Black Lives Matter came back ever since. But most of us in the Christian tradition and many other faiths, we right now fell and trapped, if you will, I could say like of a pseudo spiritual complacency, which is in somehow we're seeking to be comfortable with the sense of injustice. And that even led me back to this talk Dr. King gave at Michigan University in 64 before he died, by the way, in 68. By the way, whenever, when Dr. King died in 68, in April 4th, 68, for me, pretty much the movement just like died
Mm.
until Trayvon Martin in 26, in February 26, 2012, back, bring the movement back again.
Mm.
Kill the prophet of love. They kill the prophet of hope.
Mm-hmm.
But the movement of justice is always a movement of God. It's Christ for us who came for justice, shall never die. But going back here, this experience, like the death of Trayvon Martin, Rent is also, again, at the tables to us as seekers. I think we're seekers of love, wisdom, and justice. And to ask us, am I really want to be comfortable and really to the sense of injustice?
Right.
How on myself I'm trying to adapt here. Going back here, we are trying to. I'm so sorry if I'm turning in a circle
No.
here. Dr. King again here, and at the university, he said, I am proud to be maladjusted with the sin of injustice.
Right.
Today, I believe that the questions, as we are working through Lent, as we are engaging right now in the country, as we are moving right now toward like and the discourseable. By the way, I'm gonna ask your readers and people who are listening to get the book, get the Crucible of Racism. As we are moving right now, is to really find these questions. How, as people who stand for love, justice, and wisdom, can I stand up in the face of everything that's happening now to see how am I proud to be maladjusted with
Right.
the sense of injustice? Because if you come with this, I'd rather be maladjusted instead of like seeking comfortable while others they keep dying and begging on the floor just to simple words, just to be seen, heard, and understand, just simply as people.
And I think that's why I like this reading so much is, here's Jesus doing the work of casting out demons, which, if there ever is a demon, right, the demon of white supremacy that has just invaded our minds and bodies and souls, right? But here's Jesus casting out demons, and someone comes to him, or the Pharisees come and they say, you've got to get out of town. It's not safe. And he's like, I have work to do. I have work to do. Even though the prophet gets stoned in the in the sacred city, like there's still work to do. And I don't want to say that it's easy to be maladjusted, right? It's hard to be maladjusted, right? I mean, it's at one point you just sort of make the choice, but we understand why so many people don't do it because you do get people, they don't literally stone you, but they pillory you, they do all sorts of things. People are afraid of their reputation if they do things, if they stand up for what they think is right, or they stand up against white supremacy. And anyways, it just it I just like this reading for that sense. Like there's just something that you have to do. You have to cast out the demons.
Yes, but I really like that means Reverend, the way you put it very clear here. You have to, but it's my sense, for us as people who stand up to say, okay, all right, we stand with the gospel, we stand for love, for justice. But what am I doing for justice? Again, we go back again with Ignatius. And one of the spiritual exercises, by the way, is a set of like reflections that Ignatius I wrote way back about 500 years ago of his own conversions. The spiritual exercises, what would like, which is a big gift to the church that Ignatius has given. But one of the questions he mentioned here, what we call like the principle and foundations, were I born to praise and raise, give all the glory to God by all means to save our soul. But we come deeper down to these three questions. What am I doing for Christ? What I ought to do for Christ? And what would I do for Christ? I think here for me is really, really important to see how we are not only trying like to seek for comfort just for ourselves, but in somehow in my own works, I developed this term that I call, I just spiritual indifference.
Mm-hmm.
The spiritual indifference, as much as it's not me, I don't care.
Right.
I try to adjust and adapt with so much like this individualistic sense. In fact, I'm praying this. We all become like worshippers and the temple of individualistic without while we have forgotten the rest of the community. As Mother Teresa of Calcutta said, like, we have forgotten who we're supposed to be for each other. And the great, my favorite poet Rumi said, this business of being women is a messy business because
Mm.
we don't know what does that mean, what does it means to be human together.
Mm-hmm.
Is this whole point of being here? How do you see me as a black man? Can I be part of you and this togetherness?
Mm-hmm.
How you feel like so comfortable, just keep casting me out because I'm not looking like you. I don't speak like you. I don't dress like you because I don't eat like you. Then I'm other. Then what is the prophet means like his role here on the
Mm.
town? How do we casting the prophet away by running away from his message, his works, just seeking comfort to our uncomfort, while he came to say, hey, this place where you're right now, watch out, is a place of uncomfort, but we're still seeking for comfort into it. What does it mean for us to be Christians? I think the prophet even came here to questions our Christians, our deep like spiritual character. Who do we want to be for each other spiritually and humanly? What is the call?
Mm.
Anyway, I don't want to preach today.
No, no. I think that that is the question, right? Patrick, thank you so much for this interview. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you very, very much for having me. I think we all came to here and this together. There is many, many space. There is many ways. We can often fall into sense of complacency, but Lent is a time of like to raise against our spiritual awareness. When Jesus Christ came to the go to the desert to pray, ask his Father for the grace to be aware and open his eyes and contemplate, meditate of everything, but mainly against the sense of complacency.
Mm.
Our comfort means we are seeking here. I think we need to. I would really ask your listeners and your viewers to pray for me. Also, I can easily feel myself on the sense of of complacency, but also make this Lent be a time for each and every one of us to
Mm.
come sit at the table and pay attention to Christ and see, God, how do you want me to be seen? And how do you want to see me? And where do you want me to see you in the crowd as you're walking toward Golgotha?
Mm.
What you want of me? And again, to make this Lent be for us as performances challenge us to be, we need to challenge to be like, we have to unrooted this sense of like selfishness. We have to be unrooted this sense of like evil that's around us. And then always have this culture of forgiveness and where we can see each and everyone with love, mercy, and compassion. There is way much more to this. We can easily fall again and the sense of this is not me, this is you, I don't care. But
Mm.
prophet come to say, okay, I came for you just to give you this sense of awareness. There is also the coming of the prophet is the coming of hope. There is much more to this. But I truly believe whoever in this, whoever engaged in these works of hope, these works of justice, sorry, you've become true guardian of hope.
Mm,
And cannot be the work of there cannot be really like the sense of love without justice.
mm,
There cannot be love without justice. Whoever wants to thrive for love had to stand up for justice. Because the coming of the prophet was the coming for justice. And his coming also was the coming of hope. Today, let us be carrying each other in prayers. And let us all remember, despite everything that happened to us, we are not only disasters, we are also miracle. The prophet of hope is coming and want to invite us to walk with him and be with him and pay attention, seek what he wants of us. May all that we do and all we want to be will always be for the greater glory of the prophet. Thank you.
thank you. And thank you, everyone who's listening or watching. I will put links to Father Patrick St. Jean's books in the show notes, and it'll be easy for you to click on them and find out more about him and to read his work. Thank you so much, everyone.